sick too, along with Andrew. So thanks for your patience. Oh, sorry, got a notice on the live stream. So our October expenditures totaled $728,644. Of that amount, $515,010 was for personnel. $77,284 was for books and materials costs. $32,201 were total lease and utilities costs. And $16,373 was for interfund charges, which does include the fourth quarter accounting services portion. And to date, we have spent and dedicated a total of 69% of our annual expenditure budgets. And then on to our business office news section. So October marks a really exciting milestone for the library. We are now officially cashless. So once we closed our Indian Trail and Southfield branches for remodel, we're now fully transitioned to our new payment systems, which is those self-service kiosks. And so really, and those are card only, but really one of the biggest benefits that I'm excited for, and as well as our staff, is really that saving on the time it takes when our staff has to deal with an actual register on, something that the reports and all that. So really, there's a lot of free time for them to focus on customer service, which is just awesome. So it's going really smoothly so far, and we really like it. And then other business office news, we have decided to pay off the remaining balance of our RFID loan that we have with the city. So the original payment schedule was planned through the end of 2024. So we will be saving on some interest costs there. And that payoff is scheduled to occur in early December. Currently, our principal balance on that is about $172,000. So I would like to open for any questions before I pass it on to Penny with the bond.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are we able to pay off the RFID loan so soon?
So we're able to pay it off. We do have that capacity with our funds this year, especially with getting those levy lift dollars. But another reason that we want to do that is we are retiring that RFID system. So it just makes more sense to pay it while we have that capacity and while we're basically retiring that process.
It also unlocks those dollars for, other expenses in the next couple of years as well. So we like having that freedom with uncertainty.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions for Nicole? All right. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
And now we will hear from Penny on the bond, or are we going straight to Matt? No.
I've got a report tonight,
Okay.
Laura. Thank you. Actually, October was just jam-packed with administrative tasks. I want to give a shout out to Minnie Wong. She's a staff accountant that works for Nicole. She was very busy with me in October. The city released that upload template for the fixed asset system, and they asked that we complete that for every month in 2021. They released that in September, so we had 10 months to do, which we did, all of that in October. And to put this into context, it's common for a city department to only purchase 1 or 2 fixed assets per month, and sometimes not at all. So completing a monthly upload template's not that big a deal. But our upload templates for the bond are exceeding 100 rows each. They also asked us to upload all of our invoices into a document management system. So all of those had to be retrieved out of our finance AP system and uploaded to this other software. So very happy we've accomplished that. Unfortunately, the city software has not been able to accept any of the uploads, and they are working on resolving that with the software provider, and we hope that happens soon because Minnie and I are managing all of the assets with pivot tables and Excel worksheets at the present time. As far as the phase 1 projects, we're seeing those wind down. And as that happens, it triggers a whole set of regulatory reports that we have to complete. So a project, even if it's just the installation of shelving, which is a public works job, when those are done, I have to go in and file a notice of completion on the state website. And that includes reporting how much sales tax was paid to the contractor and also what the retainage was. That triggers a letter to go out to the Department of Revenue, Employment Security Department, and Labor and Industries, all of whom compare that information to reports that were submitted by the contractors. They also make sure that all the subs and the contractors are in good standing with the Department of Revenue and employment taxes. And only after that's done do I get a letter authorizing us to release retainage. So it's a big process, and it's just beginning for us. And October also brought a request from the state auditor's office. They selected us to be a part of the Public Works procurement section of the accountability audit. So that was, there's many contracts going under audit for 2020. Ours is the Hive and Liberty contract with Leone and Keeble. I submitted everything the first week of October. I have not had any questions since, but I also know that the job they're performing on this particular audit area is complex. So I'll keep you informed as I know things. And lastly, there were no contracts executed under the increased authority. So are there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. All right, now we have the bond construction project update from Hill International. Matt, are you here to tell us what's up?
Ready to go. Yeah, as Penny said, phase one projects are wrapping up. 4 of the buildings are open right now, of course, and trickling through with closeout procedures and operations, and that's, we're getting there slowly. Downtown branch is coming along quickly. Paint, ceiling tiles, site work, all continuing on, and we're starting to talk about closeout for that project. So things are moving along quickly and coming along quite well. Phase 2 projects, we've kind of hit a bump in the road. We did get 6 bids on November 2nd. Got some really good bid coverage, but we were over budget. So that's a future line item in our agenda. So I think we probably will talk about it there. Any questions for me on the other projects? All right.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, so now we have the quarterly performance report. Shiloh's going to present that.
Yes, I'm here. Hello. I'm actually going to share my screen. I know you have it in front of you, but that seems easiest. Can I do that? So here's the really broad summary. And if you go, remember, always you can click this link, which can you see my screen or no?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It's not letting me do other things though. If you click that link, you get a more detailed report of the performance measures if you want to delve into them a bit deeper. So for quarter 3, there's been an overall increase in circulation, as we'd expect, a little bit of a drop in digital, an increase in physical. And I think that's probably because this time, or quarter 3 last year, we had very limited operations. So people were leaning more on digital resources and less able to get physical resources. There was a huge increase in new cardholders and small one in active households. The really large increase in new cardholders was because of students, and we automatically activated their cards rather than letting them wait to see if they did that. Is there a question there? I heard someone about to talk. No? Okay. Increase in computer and Wi-Fi use, that has come partially from new branches, but a big part of that is the increase in computer usage because we had very limited, if maybe at all. I think computer use was at 0 in Q3 of last year. And then lastly, an increase in people coming in the gate again because we're starting to move post-COVID. Are there any questions about that? Just the classic thing. And we're switching some of our reporting as we open new branches and transition to folio. So the numbers are reliable, a little bit not reliable. They're a little mixed just because we're switching systems. So yeah, that's all I have. And no questions?
None for me. All right, thank you, Shiloh.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, and next on the agenda is the chairman's report, and there isn't a chairman's report, so we will move along to the executive director's report. Andrew?
All right, thank you, Laura. Before moving on to this weekend's activity, I want to stick with what's on the director's report because that's happier. We had a lot to celebrate over the past couple weeks with our execution of some major milestones, the opening of Shadle and Liberty Park, a new website, closing, East Side and Indian Trail and South Hill. We've just had a lot going on. And thank you to Mary and Casey, who's not here today, but your remarks were awesome at the Shadle and Liberty Park openings. They were just really special days that we should all be very proud of. We've all contributed in our own way to that point, and I think that the community is just really happy and overall pleased with what they're seeing from this bond effort. It's been awesome for sure. We've also been piloting our extended self-service hours, especially at Shadle and Liberty Park and Shaw. Those have been going pretty well. There have been some bumps along the way, but we're learning from them and changing up rules and procedures to make the experience more seamless for customers. I was able to work a couple shifts at Shadle just to see how it was going. And if people haven't been in for a while, or if they had an expired account, then we would fix that for them and explain what to expect really during the self-service hours. And generally, people are very positive about it. They see the benefit to the entire city of having increased hours, and they get it. And I think that there's a big improvement in our self-service systems as well. So we'll continue to troubleshoot where we're finding issues. But right now, this pilot project seems to be going pretty well. Just like the rest of Washington State, we're waiting guidance from the Washington OSHA on what the vaccine mandate will mean for employers and employees. So we're keeping an eye out on that. Excuse me. And our star spotlight this month went to Jordan Hilker. He took the monumental task of really opening and leading that charge for Shadle Park Library opening. It's a lot of materials coming in and a lot of shelving and a lot of organizing. And it just took a tremendous amount of leadership, and we thank him for that. In addition to that, he got some great feedback from Spokane Public Schools. As you know, we'll be sharing some staff space with Spokane Virtual Learning, and they had nothing but positive things to say about Jordan and how welcoming he was to the staff. So he's going to be a big part of the success for the Shadle Park Library. As far as City of Spokane goes, our operating ask continues to make it through the process. So the last hurdle was making it through the final version of the mayor's budget. So now we'll just wait for City Council to do their negotiations, and hopefully we're there in mid-December when they will take their vote. I'm feeling pretty positive that we will be there. In relation to the City of Spokane, you may have noticed an article in the Spokesman over the weekend regarding what's next for the East Side Library. As you know, we had the board approve a transfer for the East Side Library in exchange for the land the Hive sits on. We did not designate what that facility would become in the future. So there's some varying opinions of what that future use would be. And council passed a resolution, I think it was about a week and a half ago, or a week ago, to lay out that there needs to be a community process to determine what that future use would be. So I'm glad that they're getting that community input. It can be a really valuable space for the community. So we're excited to see what comes of that. And lastly, as far as the report goes, our big news is last month we talked about the delays in publishing industry. Well, we're also seeing delays from our vendor that does the pre-processing for us for materials. So we've been working in the past couple of years with Baker and Taylor. That's our primary vendor. When we order the books, we ask, that they come with a Mylar jacket on them, a shelf label, RFID, all that sort of stuff before it gets onto the shelf. Well, they've been experiencing some significant labor shortages, just as much of the country has. And we're facing some pretty significant delays in the delivery of the materials. So we're going to go back to processing in-house. We feel like we can really exceed what we're getting from Baker and Taylor. Staff is excited to bring this back in-house as well. And we think that we can do an even better job than what we were doing in the past. So we're pretty psyched about this, and I think it's going to be a good thing in the long run. And lastly, just wanted to point out a part of the report, the laptop kiosk. If you didn't see it in the Shadle Library, those are now being, that's a pilot project for us. So it looks like, I think we have 12 laptops that we can check out. So that's a pilot project. We're going to see how that goes. I think the Spokesman Review has an interest in a story around the laptops, so we'll see where that goes. But just another new service that we're able to offer to the public. Any questions on that part before we move on to what's not on the report?
I have a question about the laptops. How long are folks able to check them out? Is it just for use in the library, or are they taking them home?
It's for use in the library, and it mirrors our traditional computer offering. So it's at an hour and a half at a time. Then they return them, they get charged, the data gets wiped clean, and they're good to go.
Cool. Thank you.
Andrew, is the in-house processing going to be permanent, or is it just temporary while this problem is?
We hope it's permanent. We feel a real high confidence that we can do this in a way that is better than what we've seen from Baker and Taylor. We've learned a lot over the past couple of years. So the end goal is to make it permanently in-house, which, I mean, that's local jobs as well. So if we can still get that efficiency and the quality that we're looking for, then yes. All right, moving on. As you're aware, I kept the board updated all weekend regarding the concerning threat we received online via social media. We took very swift action with an abundance of caution when we saw this threat. This is the first type of threat that we've seen like this in an online environment. And in the interest of safety for staff and the public, we knew we had a lot of interest in the facilities, especially with the openings, higher traffic than normal. It just felt like the right thing for us to do in order to keep the staff and public safe. Throughout this week, we're going to continue to keep security on our premises, not because there's still a threat, because I think that it allows staff to focus more on the work at hand and really be able to process the events of the weekend. It's stressful for sure, and I'm sure the trustees felt the stress as well. It's not a position that we found ourselves in before, nor is it one that we hope to be in again. However, we will be reviewing our practices, best practices, and also speaking with Spokane Public Schools about how they handle these types of situations. So big kudos to staff. They were awesome in really, being present in the moment, getting folks out of the facilities, getting themselves in a safe place. And I think that the community appreciated knowing that we were looking and that we had their best interests in mind as well. Any questions or thoughts on that?
I just want to say that how pleased I was to see the way that it was handled. And I think that especially given, the added visibility that we have right now, front page news, Amanda, with the library opening, and that I think that it was the absolute right thing to do to close the branches and keep everyone safe. And I also agree that it's good to have more security there because there was so much visibility around the threats as well. I think that it's good that we continue that on for a while. So kudos. Good job.
Thank you. The last thing I wanted to mention to the board, just to keep you updated, we had a bit of a hiccup with our lease agreement with Spokane Parks and Recreation. We placed our art outside of the agreed upon boundaries for Shadle Park and Liberty Park. We have been, and once we found that out, we immediately spoke with the parks director. I had met with their lands committee within days to talk about what a possible solution would be. So what the board can expect, the library board can expect, is we'll be bringing an amended lease with the correct boundaries after the park board, after that goes through the park board process for approving an amended lease. That will likely happen in the beginning of December. We're still working out details on another item. The Parks Board was not thrilled with their involvement in the art selection, meaning they didn't have any. In our mind, it wasn't clear in the lease. They'll be making changes to any lease agreements that they have, so it's clearer on their end. But also at this meeting, we'll be giving them a review of what those art pieces are. And I've been assured that it'll be a smooth process moving forward. So a bit of a hiccup. They understand, when you look at the sites, I mean, at least personally, I can see where the mistake could be made because there are other natural boundaries like sidewalks that would indicate that would be the natural boundary instead of where it is in the lease agreement. For example, at Liberty Park, the boundary actually ends at the building. And then there's a good, I don't know, don't ask me because apparently I have boundary issues. But there's a good 15 to 20 feet that it takes to get to the end of the parking lot, which would indicate that would be the natural end of the boundary. And that's what we're going to propose. Obviously the art at Liberty Park has not yet been, or the art at Liberty Park has been installed. But at Shadle, we have not installed it. And I've halted the installation until we can get this issue resolved with Parks.
Andrew, are we being asked to move the installation at Liberty Park?
No, they're just going to change the boundary is the plan. So, and it's, that's more maintenance for our staff. But in the long run, it makes sense.
So the solution is going to be, we're just going to extend our land to past where the art is, correct?
Yep. To include.
Probably, do we have to give anything in return for that?
Yep. Great question. So for Liberty Park, yes. When we originally went through the lease process with Parks, we had paid remediation for the tennis courts. So basically a replacement. So Penny has worked out a formula based on that calculation that would include that land. It'll be, I want to say 35,000 or so is what we're looking at additionally for Liberty Park. And I mean, the story there is that just goes towards improving their playground. It's in the end, it's a great benefit for the community. So at least that's how we can frame it. But yeah, in the end, it's all taxpayer land. When I met with Parks Board, I took full ownership of the mistake. And next step is to find a solution and move on and wrap these projects up.
Yeah. And the bottom line, I mean, for the general public, they neither know or care where the library property ends and the park ends. It's all public property.
For 90% of the population, I would imagine. Yeah. Yep.
Will the additional funds come out of the bond proceeds?
Yes. And we have capacity there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Andrew? All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you all.
I didn't see Kate here. Do we have a council liaison report? I don't believe she's.
No, I don't see her either.
Okay. All right. So then communications report, Amanda.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So if you recall, at the last board meeting, I had a long list of projects on the horizon, and we have checked a lot of those boxes off in the last month. So in addition to hosting and planning 2 successful ribbon cutting ceremonies, we also have printed all new collateral for our rack cards for all of our new locations, digital download brochures, and a welcome brochure for new card holders. We completed all of the communication for the closure of Indian Trail, South Hill, East Side, and Northtown. So that was a series of emails to customers, as well as print pieces and social media to make sure that people knew that the libraries were closing and where they would need to go to find their materials after the closure. We launched our new website on October 20th. The day after our last board meeting. The launch was successful. It went very smoothly, mostly because our IT team stayed up until 4 a.m. to make sure that it went seamlessly. So thank you to them. That was amazing. It was not a bumpy transition at all. There were a few places tying into Horizon where it was maybe a little bit of a challenge into our ILS. But Tara mentioned, it was unavoidable. There was bound to be a little bit of pain tying things in, and we kind of worked out those kinks. And then we're preparing for our transition to folio in just a month. So we didn't want to spend too much time making it perfect, just enough to get us across the finish line to folio. But we saw a increase of 17.5% increase in web traffic just in the last 11 days of October from when we launched until the end of the month. So people were definitely checking it out. And we have a lot of plans for directing traffic to the website going forward. We curated a successful virtual staff week a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, where several of our employees submitted videos that everyone could kind of watch on their own time. And then Andrew led a Q&A and did a State of the Union address live on Zoom so that we could all meet virtually. So that was a really great way for us to connect, even though we couldn't be in person this year. We also launched our paid media campaign. You learned about this at last month's board meeting with the woodshop. That's live now. So you may see paid digital ads. You may see boosted social ads now in your social media feeds. We have printed door hangers that will be hanging on the houses, 50 to 100 houses right around the neighborhood where the libraries have opened. So we're going to put door hangers on the houses closest to the library. And we also have Spotify ads. So if you are listening to Spotify, keep your ears open for a Spotify ad voiced by our own Skylar Noble from the marketing team, and with custom music written by Andy Rumsey, our music education specialist. So a joint effort to create some cool digital advertising. On social media, we had an amazing month for organic engagement around our new facilities. Yeah, that's not surprising. Our engagement for this period on Facebook was up over 300%. And the post about opening Shadle reached 12,000 people organically. And you'll see those kinds of impressive stats on all of our channels. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll also notice we're starting to do more stories. It's a great way to engage with more people, get our content in front of more people. And we've also started using the space to create Native American, to create book lists. This month it's for Native American Heritage Month. Create book lists and highlight content for our community that people might be interested in. And that will also be a saved highlight on our account so people can engage with that content later if they want to. We also had a fun celebrity interaction on Twitter where we tagged Billy Idol in a book face, and he or his people, I'm assuming, responded to us, but that led to a 131% increase in engagement to 2 of our posts on Twitter. So kind of fun, not local, but always kind of fun when we get something like that. And then on earned media, it's no surprise we had a lot of coverage. Like Mary just mentioned, we were on the front page of the Spokesman with the Liberty Park opening. We did several early morning live shoots. Thank you to Alina at Shadle Park, and also one for the Hive for an open house that we had on First Friday. So all of that was just really rewarding month, accomplishing a lot of things. And, none of the Facebook or social media stats reflect the events this weekend. So I'll touch on that next month. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Amanda. Everything looked so great. Everything went so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Laura, you're muted.
Sorry, there's an appliance here that turns on and makes noises. Excuse me. So now we'll move on to new business. That is the bond fund, item 13A. Who's going to talk about that? Matt and Penny?
Yes. Thank you, Laura. Well, we fully expected to bring a contract forward for the renovation of Indian Trail and South Hill. But instead, we're going to ask the board for approval to reject all the bids and allow us to rework the packages and resolicit. If you'll let me walk you through what brought us to making this request, then Matt has joined me tonight and we're both available for questions. So in early 2021, we were beginning to receive estimates from our design team that were showing that construction costs would come in roughly 1.2 million higher than the Group 4 estimates. Now, about 500,000 of that we know was the result of some design changes that we had requested, and the remaining 700 for cost escalation. And as I talk about these numbers, these are all pre-tax numbers, which is important. We weren't concerned at that point in time because I had enough interest earnings to cover this increase. And with the effects of COVID and supply chain issues, we were not surprised. But the bids went out, and on November 2nd, the actual lowest bid was 2.3 million over the Group 4 estimates. So another 1.1 million above what we were expecting. And it's important to know that those construction bids don't cover everything. Now we have higher cost projects and our existing contingency budgets are underfunded. We have to make the addition for sales tax. We also have a remote lock system to install at both Indian Trail and South Hill, the purchase of builder's risk insurance, and to pay utilities. So that bumps us closer to 2.9 million over our Group 4 original estimates. I can cobble together 2.9 million. That would happen on January 1st when our 2022 budget would be loaded. We have $2.3 million of interest that we have budgeted. It would take all of that away. Interesting to note that we're only earning about $20,000 right now per month. So our high interest earning days are gone. So this would consume all of the bulk of our interest earnings. I would then go to each of the phase 1 projects, not Central, but the Hive, Shadle, and Liberty, and I would sweep out any excess capacity that we have there. But this caused us to pause, and it led us to have a discussion with our public works attorney at Perkins Coie and also Mike Piccolo. And it was through that discussion that we learned about rejecting the bids and really digging in and looking at these designs to see if we have some cost savings to be had, and to restructure the bid in such a way that we had our core base have-to-haves, and then establish some alternates that would allow us to make a selection to add those alternates if we had the funds and resources available. So our objective in asking for this board approval is to allow us time to revisit the designs, to restructure the bid package, and for it to include alternates, and resolicit it immediately thereafter. So with that, I'd like to invite you to ask me or Matt Walker any questions that you have about this.
I do just want to emphasize as well, we'll still be able to fulfill our promise to the voters. Indian Trail and South Hill were both minimal touches. So these would be more like our remodel. It's hitting, we'd still be able to hit up all the mechanical, all the building guts that we want to update. You know, we're still thinking carpet and paint. They would still get the children's spaces, play spaces. And the goal would be to include more meeting rooms as well. So we're still giving the taxpayers what we promised. We were feeling really confident at the beginning of this year that we could get a little bit more extra into those facilities. That's not how we feel right now, but I just want to assure the trustees that that minimal promise that we made to the public would still be there.
I guess it's not so much a question as a comment that we're finding that also here at the credit union, that the costs of, as we're doing some construction remodel, that the costs of things have gone up so much. A sign that we paid so much for 2 years ago is, double now, and if we can get it. So I understand. It's, I guess it's not surprising, looking back, that the bids came in so high.
My question is, how much is this going to delay the projects? What is the time? What's the time situation here?
I was speaking with Mark Daly this afternoon about that, and he's hopeful that they could get new plans out by the end of January. And that was just, ballpark, quick calculation, but we are entering the holiday season, and so there's an impact there as well with how quickly things can get done. So I would say, end of January would probably be a likely time to go out for bid.
So that it would be able to go out to bid at mid-January, and then how long do people have to submit the bids then? Was there
We usually we give them about 3 weeks for a project of this size. So we'd get bids mid-February-ish.
Okay.
Do we anticipate that is going to add the same amount of time on the front end, or do we have some possibility to contract so we're staying close to the original schedule?
I think it'll probably add about the same amount of time, because of the market and COVID-19 and supply chain issues. We're trying to give contractors a little bit more time to finish projects, because that's generally what's happening anyway, is they're taking longer to get them done. So I doubt we would try to condense it.
I guess another question I have is that, if we're adding another 2 or 3 months onto it and the prices are going up so high, is there a danger that they're just going to keep going up even more?
That is a possible risk.
Yeah.
It's just where you want to place your risk, in my mind. We don't have the confidence at this point that we could fully meet our end of the contract.
Yeah.
And that's not a position that I think that we want to be in. So we're taking a little bit of a different risk. And honestly, by that time, we'll know more about downtown or Central Library. And we can probably act a bit more appropriately in our strategy.
And that would be the advantage, Jim, of having alternates added to the package. Because as we progress with Central, we might find that we have some resources there. Right now, I'm very protective of Central's resources, because it's a big project, and we're moving along, and projects have surprises. But having these alternates established in the bid package, we buy a little time here, and we can purchase with the resources that we're comfortable with at that later date.
So with the alternates, you'd be basically asking the bidders to submit a main bid and then a series of alternate that we either may or may not.
Right. It's kind of a menu approach. So we would have our core must-haves that Andrew just referred to, but then we have some nice-to-haves that would make us a little nervous to commit to at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And each project is given up to three alternates, I believe.
Well, you can have as many as you want, but
you can have as many as you want. Oh,
don't wait. I didn't say that. No. I've seen projects with 15 to 17 alternates. You talk about trying to bid a catastrophe, but yeah, three is a good number.
And so, are we thinking that the alternates are set up as an either or thing, or that if we end up not running into major problems on Central and the closeout of the other branches goes smoothly and the contingency is not eaten up with those, that we might have enough to do all three of the alternates?
That would be a possibility, yes. That's the beauty of doing that, as opposed to the way we bid it this round. It's all bid as a single package, so you're all in or you're all out. And looking back, that maybe we made a mistake going at it this way, but we're hitting the pause button now and bringing this for discussion for that reason.
I think the flexibility is good, and then we will have better information at the time that that decision has to be made as far as whether or not we can afford it and how prices may have moved.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I mean, I'm not sure we have much of a choice if what I'm hearing is that we're not sure we can afford to, I mean, if we accept even the lowest bid that we have right now, we're not sure we could pay for it. Is that?
I can cobble it together, Jim. I just want us to be clear that it does exhaust 100% of that interest that we put into the budget, and it'll be gone January 1st. In addition to sweeping out the other branches that are coming to closure. So I'm not saying we can't. It's a matter of where our comfort zone is.
It's more prudent not to accept those bids, correct?
Well, my personal opinion, now you all know I'm really conservative, so, and I'm a nervous Nelly, okay? I worry about everything all the time. So that's just my comfort zone, but that's why we have a board and we're bringing this for full discussion.
And Karis and I are in full agreement with Penny. We want this to be a good experience for the public, and we don't want we don't want to be looking back at this decision, accepting the bids and being like, oh, we were wrong here. We had a chance to come about this in a different way, and we're trying to take that chance right now.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Okay. Well, the proposal is that the board approve rejection of all of the bids that were obtained in order to work on a modified bid package and resolicit bids immediately thereafter.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, Nathan. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much for all of your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Okay, and are there any additional agenda items to add now, changes? Okay, hearing nothing. Did we get any public comments from our email?
Nope.
Nope. All right, our next regular meeting is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. And I don't believe we need to have an executive session this time.
And just to note, we did move that meeting a week sooner than the third Tuesday, just because of holiday. So just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that.
What's the date again? December
14th.
14th.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that as well, Andrew. All right, and no executive session, so I think we're ready to adjourn.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. And
Thank
we'll see next month.
you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Thanksgiving.